Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. I'm going to do the couchoir, well, a version of couchoir. Then we're going to do a full-blown large couchoir study a little bit later on in another week or so. But I'm going to do a smaller one to get us back into thinking about some couchoir, some of his brush techniques, some coloring, some different ways to paint the casual flowers. So you guys voted first for a landscape. We did that one. Now we're going to do this one, and then we'll do a seascape, and on we go, okay? So what I have here first is just an MDF panel. This is 14 inches this way, 18 inches this way. And then I sat down and did a little sketching. Now I have an Anne-Cotterell up there, which I really like. I don't always like, when they put the handle. I know they do it for interest, but I don't always like it when they put the handle right out front. I think that distracts from the flowers, but that's just my own personal opinion. But I loved her work. Her work is wonderful. And this is a couchoir. And so I'm just going to use both and just as some ideas and develop my own right here. And so it's 14 inches this way, 18 inches this way. And then I like to, I came over this way. Halfway here would be 7. I came over about almost 8 inches, and I drew a line down. That's what I like to do, is draw a line down. And then I kind of sketched what I thought would be the size of the vase here. And I actually took it down an inch in size on either side here afterwards because I thought it was just, at first I was like, oh, I'm excited. I'd like to paint this particular type of look to the vase, that two-tone look. And it got a little bit big. I think it was overpowering. It was all about the vase, and I kept drawing my flowers bigger to take out the vase. So I decided to small it down a little bit, and we'll do that. But so the width of the vase right about in here is about 5 inches. And I can, if I wanted to, I can draw this a little bit more closer to what he has there, a little wider at the top. I'm going to leave it like this. I just put down a nice arch. And a good way for some of you to do that if you're doing your own is off of the center line. What I do is that you can use the calipers, which I have shown you before. You can take put a caliper up and move over and put that on that way. Or like me, I have a lot of these little popsicle sticks things, and you can see I just take it and I make the mark, and then I'll transfer over and make the mark, and it works that way. And I just so I draw one side and then I can match the other side. And then I'm going to put a flower here, maybe a big open one right here, and I'll make a big turned one here and some smaller flowers. Do they all stay the same color? I don't know yet. So we'll kind of put that in there. But that's how I start out. So it's a 14 by 18. The board has a coat of the canvas prep medium, which I've told you about before. I use the Heritage Canvas Prep Medium because it gives me a nice matte surface to work on that grabs some of the paint, and I like the way it goes. My colors that I have out here this is my YouTube favorite palette, and the listing of all the colors, like everything else, is down in the video description. Everything that I use is in the video description. So if you ask me what kind of extender and all that kind of stuff I use, look to the video description. All the links are in there, okay? All right, let's get going on this, and let's put in some color. First, I like the warm and cools that are in his. I think this is a little too cool. I mean, he's the master, but I think it's a little too cool. And I love the grays. I love grays that come from burnt sienna and blue, red and green, burnt sienna and blue. I just think these are just all amazing, amazing types of gray. I like the burnt sienna and blue because they're almost complements to each other. The burnt sienna is warm, the blue is cool, so I can vary that. Now I'm going to add a little bit of extender to this so it'll stay wet for a while, but I really don't need it to be. And so I'm going to get rid of some of my excess color here, and I'm just going to walk this like this. I'm just going to, and see, this is what I like when you get some different burnt siennas and blues coming off of the brush in different ways, and that'll happen if you don't mix it up real well. So I like those colors, see, just to splash and play out there like that. And so that'll be a little bit more of our lighter side here, and we might want to lighten it up again, but it's real pretty. Then over here we'll get to the darker side. Now, so I'm going to bring in light here this direction. And a lot of the French Impressionists, like Couchoir and stuff there, followed some of the Dutch techniques and some of the, and the overall lighting. I started studying the lighting, and there was originally a Dutch artist named Balthasar van der Ast, if you can go look him up. And he started to add, back in the 17th century, this what's called chiaroscuro, which is Italian, which is the light to dark of the painting. So if you brought in light this way, and you lit up your particular painting, light would actually light here, shadow, and the through shadow and stuff would come here, but the darkest part of the painting over here. So you have light against dark and shadow of the composition against light of the background. So, and I like that particular thing. I tend to paint it quite a bit. So what that all means is that as we go over to the right, if I bring in my light coming from the right, as we go over to the right, I'm going to get a little cooler and a little darker over here. And this is where I really like those colors to kind of come on. And then I'll just model those together right there like that. Okay, and we'll get some of this darker. Boom, there goes all my flowers I drew. But I got an idea here. And let's go a little bit more blue. And so I'm just doing this mostly with the blue and the burnt sienna and a little bit of white, and we'll add some other colors later on back in here, but that'll be real pretty, I think, into the coloring of our background here. And then up into the front, we can lighten and warm the whole thing. Maybe we'll add a little yellow too, create a warmer gray, a ground line like a plinth or something like that right here. And again, I'll add more. And when I'm doing this type of painting, this is, color usages that I use a lot. But when I do this type of painting, it's something that I will change the colors and add colors. You're going to see me add other tones, other values into this painting and break this up. This is just a good neutral starting value. We'll add a little bit of an idea of a horizontal line there, and something like that. And so we'll set up our painting that way. Now I'm going to rinse that. That's my big number 2-inch soft brush. As you can see, it does a really good job of that quick modeling of those colors. And there a lot of the one of the greatest impressionist painters of our time was Sargent. And Sargent always said, use as large a brush as possible for the area in which you're going to paint. That keeps you from playing with it. And especially if you're like me, left-brained, you sit there and you repeat strokes, and so it can make it really stiff. So always use as large a brush as you possibly can. Now I'm going to go down to a 1-inch here, and I'm just going to clean up just a little bit of color here and there. We're going to have a cast shadow, of course, coming up over to this side, but I want to start some of this vase in here, and I want this more warm here for the bottom part of it, warmer, just maybe even a little red green here, and some blue, maybe a touch of violet into here. And when the vases, the containers that I like to use, what I tend to do is use all the colors of the composition in them, because they're going to cast all the colors of the composition. So that's what I like to use. So let's just use some of this. Let's warm that just a bit more, a little more yellow into it here. That's pretty. And real close to the background, real close, but you can see it's a little bit different. And I'm just going to block it in for right now. And then I'll add some shadow sides and stuff like that to it. But I can, if it bothers you, you can, lighten up just a little bit on this light side. We're going to paint it specifically. I don't worry about it too much. I know where my container is going to be. And I know it's going to be lighter in there. And we'll have lights and shadows and stuff. I like the bluish kind of color up there at the top. You could also go to, Anne Cotterell's color and get that more of that earthenware there. That would be really nice as well. But I'll add a little more blue and a little more burnt sienna here. And it's leaving it slightly more blue here. And let's just add a mark or two here. And we'll add that ellipse up at the top there. This is very, very simplistic right now. So all of this is going to change. And that's one of the, when I started out painting, I tried to be more precise and perfect and stuff with everything. And I found that made everything stiff. Whatever you start out with travels through the painting. So I try to be a little more casual with what I do and relaxed. Let's just push a little of this color back in here. Push it right along. We'll work that whole vase here in just a little bit. So I can see the vase and I can see the background there. Let's add, just for giggles here so we know where it's going to be, let's add a little bit here for the contact ground, the cast shadow here, just so we can see some of that. And I'm not going to be too perfect with it. All this gets worked again, but it just helps you visualize, some of it. Sometimes you can put a ground line back there, like under the couchoir there, he has a light color that comes into the ground line, and he reflects a lot of this color back down into the background. So we have a lot to do. But if you want to do something like that, like take some of that light, come right back through here and reflect that ground line. This is through light coming through. This is the through light coming through the back of the composition here. So the light is passing through the painting and stuff. So, that's what a lot of the, the chiaroscuro, the light to dark of the painting, that they, floral artists and stuff set their compositions up specifically for that. Van der Haas did that and worked really well. Now, see what it does is, so if my light is here, see, light is casting and hitting back behind on the other side. And so they move the vase of flowers away from the wall further. So you'll see actually the table line or ground line go higher on these types of paintings. If they do put one in there, you'll see it go higher in the painting than you do on some of the other ones, because they've pushed it away so that you get this light dark effect. And light dark and shadow and effect was such a big thing in all the painting. That's what made Johannes Vermeer and all that very, very popular, was how he lit. And I went over to the Netherlands, to the studio where they recreated his studio, and it was quite interesting. And the window and stuff. Matter of fact, I took my picture of my wife standing there with the light in the window, just like he did a lot of his paintings and stuff, which was really quite fun. Let's come on. Let's put in. So I have an idea. It's not perfect. I have an idea. I've got a lot of colors in there. I work fast. And because all of it's going to change. I'm going to take a number 10 here. I'm going to take some red and some of my Quinacridone Violet. I'm going to make a beautiful little pinkish color here, and maybe a little more light. I love that Cotterell rose over there. And so what I'm going to do is nothing perfect here. I'm just going to tap in some of the colors here to see if I like that. And sometimes I'll take some of the grayness that I have and physically add that to the back of the rose. And so you can see it instantly get a very bright and light part of the flower, and then it just fades into that grayness that we might want to have over here. Okay, let's go more whites. Softer whites and grays right in here, just like that Cotterell over there. I like that. I like couchoirs as well, but I do like that. Now, what I don't like is those two I just did that left brain thing and painted them to the same height. So let's take one down here, painting them right at the same height. That's my left brain, and I do that all the time. I always say it gives me more opportunity to practice because I have to change it quite a bit. So let's drop this down. down a little lower so they're not at the same height. Here, we'll drop one down here. Let's drop that down a little bit more. This one will take up a little higher there. So they're not exactly at the same height. Let's drop it down, definitely down a little bit more. Here, there we go. And she has them almost at the same height, stuff, but she separated them more than what I have. So you can get, and she's also a very beautiful painter. She can get away with it, but I'll just do that. So, and again, I'll let some of this gray hit through here, and let's express that light source. So if it's right up through here, this light is going to hit here on our flower, right up here, so you can see where the light is on the flower, right there, right? And let's express that light pink right up here, a little more warmer orange. When you get that light, you'll get a warmer orange here. That's better. Right up through here, maybe right here. We're going to keep this more open, so we'll do that. So I like that. That's kind of pretty. And for right now, let's just take, now this is open medium, and I hit it here by mistake. It doesn't necessarily have to be there, but let's just move some coloring back through here. I'm going to paint the first flowers first, the large ones first. Let's put a little more lighter gray back through here. Maybe this flower lines up right up over here, and this one goes out a little further. And so what I'm doing is just looking at the colors of the composition. I don't get in there and paint it perfect right now, because that would influence me a little bit too much. So I'm just looking at the painting. So see, I'm just pulling down like this is going to be a bud. So as you're moving up, now she has a big one right back up there, and so does he. But my board is a little smaller. Their compositions are bigger. Mine is a 14 by 18, so it's smaller. So I'm immediately going to go to some smaller flowers. I want to keep the viewer in here. But if you're up at a big 16, 20 by 16 or something like that, you might want to drop some bigger flowers here, right away. And we might have a petal or two appear out here at the bottom. Okay, so that gives us some ideas. Let's get those beautiful, I like on Cotterell's there, she has these beautiful blue, deep blue greens right in here. Nice, beautiful, cool colors right in here. So a little phthalo and a little bit of pine green. Pine green's very warm, phthalo's really cool. And so we can just push some of those cool colors in here. And I'll just mix that all up. I'm not looking for leaves yet. I'm just looking for color. And then let's warm it up. A little more pine green, a little bit of yellow maybe. As we come out over here, maybe hit that edge over here as we come out towards the light right there. And Cotterell is, she paints it more specific. I am going to be more casual. So I'll be a little bit more casual. I'm going to, like I'm doing right now, is I'm going to paint for speed. I'm going to keep going on this. So I'm going to take some green and the blue and the red here, which will darken and cool this. And I'm going to put the shadow leaves over onto this side here. Ideas of them. I don't want them perfect. So see, that's why I love the paint up onto the surface here where it stays a little bit matte. It'll grab the paint real quick, and then as it's drying here, I wipe it back so I leave just a bit of the memory of it, and it almost makes like a perfect leaf right there by itself. So we're going to have some nice warm leaves that'll come up here towards the light up in here, some other little marks, and then some cooler leaves. I'm going to add a little bit of extender. Some cooler ones just hitting back through some of these outside edges here. And I love over on Cotterell so that she has the three, you know, and of course I have this big, of course her painting's larger, so she has a little bit more room to play some more shapes, but I'll probably put the 3 right out over there. Let's lighten that up just a bit so we see where it is. And so we'll push 3 right over here, maybe a little bit of Hansa into that. Here. The trinity of leaves right here. That comes off that you get with roses and stuff all the time. And maybe a few of those marks. And see, all I want to do in here is just get some of these beautiful colors. I'm not specifically painting leaves yet, just getting some of these colors in here. Get rid of those light spots there. And there you go. There's, you know, in 15 minutes or so, you got a good setup here of where it's going to, you know, what it might look like here. I'm not too super happy with same here, so I'll have to change that a little bit, and maybe bridge another flower, or maybe bridge underneath here like there is another back flower here. Get rid of some of that green and bridge another one right here, or move this flower over just a bit. We can do that because we're professionals. We can move that over just a bit here, and yeah, we'll adjust that. Let's get some of that dark. We can see some of that, and see I can just put a few light strokes back there, and it'll look like that's another rose or something else back in there. Maybe a little bit of pink into that. So we'll deal with that in just a little bit. Let's divide up. So this rose is looking really, really turned this way, and I want to face it more towards us. So I'm going to put the center in, some Quinacridone Violet and some Red Violet. Let's go in and put the dark center in right down about in here. Okay, so that is going to open the rose up this way a bit. And we'll go more to a warmer orange in here. So a little bit of our, I love the Diarylide and the Naphthol Red Light, that orange. Let's get some warmth in there so as it's coming out and hitting some of the light, okay? Some of that real cool deep color right down in there. Pretty bright here. There we go. And see, so what I'm doing with my brush, I'm stuck way back on my brush, and I'm just working real quick marks, see? And so if I want to soften something right in here, then I'll take another color. Like I reach for like a yellow right here if I'm by the center, and I'll soften that with a yellow. If that doesn't work, then I might take a lighter violet. But and what I look for is that value to soften that just a bit there. Soften that back edge. Maybe push that into that green right in there. And if it starts to dry up too much, you know, some of the things I've showed you guys in the last video, like those of you, if you haven't gone over to the Paint It Simply channel, I'm showing a lot of Paint It Simply techniques, you know, that really help acrylic artists. Is you take a little bit of water, watch what happens. I take a little bit of water and I push that on there first, then I can push that green right down into that leaf and create a more transparent edge, because water is our solvent on these paints. And so these are good things to know. And so in the Paint It Simply channel, which I put a video the other day up that shows me changing a rose, you watch that, it has the links that goes over to the Paint It Simply channel, our other channel. So let's take some light color here, and let's just draw in a bit of light right there as a petal. Then I will go to a halftone. So I'm going to reach over here a little darker, more to a halftone, and just toss some of that in right in there. And I'll put in another, maybe a little bit of a light right up here. Remember, I'm not going to paint as detailed as Cotterell did. I'm going to paint for speed, casualness and speed here. So I'm going to halftone. So I put the color in and then halftone. If I want to soften it, I push it with my finger, right? Now, I know some of you that are beginners or are watching this are going, whoa, well, you have a few videos to watch to be able to get to some of this stuff, but you can. You know, don't try in something like this. Just watch the video, and, you know, this is where you're going to go. We'll add more paint. More paint. We build. You know, it's like I painted Dutch for so many years, and all of their flowers, they built and built and built slowly over time. Many layers. We'll gray this with a little bit of the green. Push that up. Now I want to soften that edge. I can take just a touch of water right into that, push, and see I can make that whole thing look transparent. Just boom, see? And those are some of the techniques that I want to go back to some of the Paint It Simply that I used for so many years and go back and show you guys how we control the water and stuff into our painting to make beautiful, you know, shapes and flowers and, you know, peaches and everything we can do. Let's push a little bit of the opening here. Maybe that's the opening of our flower here. Push a little bit of light here. Boom, like that. Okay. Go up and around a bit here. Smaller little marks. So I'm getting smaller little marks here, which make it look like more petals and stuff here. And I can push it around and swirl it a bit. You know, I like that on this. Now this one stroke that I have here kind of cuts it off a little bit more. I want it to round up a bit. So I'm going to pull that down and I'm going to round up this opening a bit and come across up here, opening it up a bit. Maybe a bit of my reds here. Here, like that. And I can, now, if I feel that this mark closes it down too much, what I do is I drop this value, or pull it back, pull this value, that edge back, softening that edge. And what I do is I put a mark away from this edge, which closes it off, more in towards the center here, which opens it up. Does that make sense? So see how the rose just all of a sudden started to open up, see? And I'll take some additional dark, swirl it around like this, and I've now opened that rose a bit more. Does that make sense? So if you leave this light all the way to the edge, you close it. But by putting the light in here, and I'm deciding, yeah, I need to open that up a bit. I'll put a little green in here to soften that out. Let's just grab a bit of water, run it right on that for a second, and see, boom, I can make that transparent right in there. And then maybe give it a bit more of a edge. Let's take a little bit of greens, some of my reds right in here. Softer colors, maybe just a touch of that light in there. There we go. Just real pretty that way. And yeah, and so I can, you know, add a few, let's just add a few little turns here, and see that starts to open up this rose towards the other way. And we can do some longer petal strokes out like this to bring that in closer. A few little marks, rounding marks, like maybe those are some of the petals. And let's, so it's marks, see, and it's the direction of your mark. So I want this to swirl. I always call it a cinnamon roll type of rose. So I want this to kind of swirl around here, like that, so that rose is coming at you a bit. Does that make sense? And before I swirl out like that growing up, which makes it growing and leaning, I don't want this one to lean. So I'm just going to add a little more light right up in here, right up. And I just added a petal back there. That's okay, it's going to get painted again. Yes, that's what I like. And maybe a bit more light. Sometimes maybe a bit of yellow. Let's put a bit more of a mark right in there. Right, like that. Maybe a bit of texture. See how I just kind of scoop that up. Add just that touch of texture there, which will help that a lot, immensely. A little bit of texture right in here. There we go. And let's just give this a soft little edge of a petal here. And then I'll push to bring that green and stuff up into it, see? And it'll make it a little transparent petal. Just a touch there. Touch here and there. There we go, just like that. Just leave those little touches. You know how long that took for me to just let go and just go boom, boom, put those little touches on there? How many hundreds of paintings and flowers it took for me to get the confidence to just go boom, put that on there and leave it. That's not something that happens so quick because if you're like me, you want to make that thing perfect, right? And, that is just so hard. Let's take a little green and a little blue, maybe a bit of red to cool that, to tone that a bit. And we'll add a bit more color right back in here. This is the negative painting technique that I show you in the Paint It Simply, where we come through and, negative paint something, which pops parts of it forward more. So this little bit of negative dark and stuff there, you can see how that just goes boom to that rose, right? It works. All right, let's get some of this darker blue, maybe a bit of burnt sienna into it, a little bit of violet because it'll help cool it down even a little more. Let's get that down over here into our shadow side right up in here. We'll work that in. We want that, and we'll just blur that in just a bit. I see how I just push it and blur it a bit here. So we'll get some of that. Let's lighten it up. When I lighten it, I'm going to warm it slightly, gray it, a little bit of the burnt sienna in there. I just love those colors together. They always work. So we'll warm some of that up as we come across here just a bit. So we have some nice deep darks here. We'll and see I'm moving my brush in what we call the calligraphy, the movement, slight rounding movements and stuff like that. And then I'll come in here, and I know I'm painting fast, guys, but I want you to show you this. You can watch it several times, but there is a certain degree of beauty that comes from the speed of the painting. Don't play, not playing with it. That's going to come with time, okay? I wanted to show you guys, this is how fast I normally paint when I'm not teaching, okay? So you can watch this several times, and then into the other teaching videos that we'll add on the other channel and onto this one, I'll slow down. But this is how I love to paint, at this speed. And this is what makes it the prettiest of all, because my flowers do get stiff if I play around too much. And I'd like to show you just how fast I really do things. And, so that was my goal with this, is to show you and the speed. And, I teach speed in all of my classes, in all my paintings, in all my classes and stuff. And a lot of you are asking us, also writing and asking, am I going to go back to teaching some of this live classes again? Yes, we're going to be open. We have the Art Center here, which is a 13,000 square foot building gallery here in Sidney, Nebraska, and we're going to be opening it back up here probably the end of September of 2024. And we're going to introduce a couple of classes and let some of you come in here and paint. So if you're interested in that, leave a comment or write our studio, contact our studio that you're interested in maybe taking some real classes. And we'll sit down and we'll sit at easels and we'll have a good time painting some of this stuff. And I want to get back into that. I was telling the family here this last week. My daughter was back out here from Pennsylvania. I said it's time for me to go back into the classroom with everyone again. I miss it because I get just as much from you guys as you get. I get the inspiration from you guys, and you keep me on my toes, and so I miss it as well. So it's time to get back into that. So let's put a little bit of that in there. I got some of that modeling. Now, so I got some modeling in there. I'm gonna add a few other like little strikes of color here. That's what kind of makes it pretty, right? And now I'll add the light source. So I'm gonna add in, so now I'm gonna come in and say, okay, here's gonna be the light where this is gonna hit this area here. And I'll just kind of smoosh that around. Now, I haven't added any medium to it. This is just thick paint. And but you could touch into some of this. This is awesome stuff that will keep it wet for a long time. You know, you can just touch into some of that. Usually what I do is I'll put on that. I'll come over here, grab a little bit of what we call a half tone, and I'll soften into this, work around that into that half tone there, and that starts to set it up. It's nowhere near done, but in a quick painting, what I'll do is I'll swirl in some of the roundness to the container here that I want to see, and we're going to work some of those other colors in there. So I got that in there. Let's get that lighter, warmer bit here, yellows. Some lights here, get some of these grays, a little bit of blue into that. Let's get some lighter, warmer colors right in here, right where those are going to come together there. And see, I'll just kind of smoosh them together. Show you that more in a minute. But I want to follow that contour, the light and the contour here of this container, right? And let's drop in a little bit of form shadows. This will be coming in burnt siennas, blues, a little bit of the yellows. This will be our form shadow, this side over here. Form shadows are, you know, once it passes the apex, the roundest part of the forward part of it, you start to head to what we call the form shadow. So I'm going to add a little extender over here. Whenever I paint shadows, I like extender, thinner color. And so I'll add some shadow over there. And, you know, and I like what Couchois does there, the variations. He's got a little bit of the orangey warms coming in through here that are picking up in some of the composition. Let's go a little bit lighter right up in here, a little bit bluer. And see, I'm moving my brush in just all kinds of marks. Do you see that? So that I can leave brush marks in there, which brush marks are the key. They are the key, guys, to adding interest to your paintings. Let's put a bit more of a light little mark, which will bring all together that. That's the light passage coming right down through here. Let's go into our form shadow color right in here. Boom. Add some of that right there. A little darker right over here onto the edge. Now you see the second time I'm doing this, these shadows soften out more. And I could add more extender or something, blend more, but I like that movement. I like to leave that movement. Let's get some of this warmer kind of yellow, which I like here on his painting. You know, and that's just real pretty color. So let's just add a little bit of that through the painting. You know what I say about painting is make a color, move the color, move the color. Let's just add some of that right in there. That's beautiful. And see, I can soften all of this and push and smush it around. This is why I like the non-toxic acrylics. I can use my fingers. If you don't, if you're painting oils or something, use your brush. Don't use your fingers, because you have solvents in there that aren't really all that great. I know. There we go. I like that. Maybe I did that too much here. So I'll just take a bit more of that in there like that. Yeah, like that. That's as much as I like that, that needs to be a little bit whiter right out over here. Oh, I like that bit of burnt sienna that hit there. So I'm going to grab some more. Yep. That's pretty. Yeah, now just drag that. I'll drag the edge. So see, I fracture that edge off. There. There we go. Just like that. That fractures that edge. And I like that. There's, you can put in, and you'll see it a lot of times, secondary lights, little other lights that come through, just little marks. This is very much Impressionism. So we're not going to get all wild and crazy about having everything perfect, because we're painting more Impressionism and quick. A little more Impressionism than Cotterell, not quite as much as Couchoir. We're using inspiration from both of them because they were both just magnificent artists. I just love to set their paintings out. I don't copy them all the time, but I pull a lot of inspiration from them. And so we'll come down in through here. We'll push this nice little edge here. Blur these colors up into this edge here. That little vase. Now he is more, let's add a little extender. Couchoir is more defined on his edge. I have to decide, do I want to be a little bit more defined here? Here. There. That's kind of pretty. I kind of like that. That's, and maybe a bit more of the light right through here. You see, I like these little marks and blurred edges. I just like little marks and blurred edges like that. And that took me a long time to get it. And what gets it more than anything else, guys, is speed. I know that, I know you sit there and you go, oh, I want to work it through. But see, the speed is what really gets it going. Doing it quick. And it's like I've told you in so many other videos. Here, let's put the ground line on there. You will have a reflected light if you want to warm it and put up a reflected light right down in there. You will have that onto the vase. Those of you that have taken color theory and done light studies with me, you know that. Let's just push some of those together. And see that little bit of light right there just adds so much to the painting. Fun little bit there. Yeah, and a little bit here. There we go. Now, and I do want to maybe, express, maybe it's more like a cast shadow up here from the composition here, coming down. A little more dark, maybe right over that line just a bit there. A little bit different of a blue. It's a deeper blue. It's a real rich color, and see how it just pulls your eye right to that. Let's thin this out, that color, and maybe push a little, but that's a little too thin. But boy, it sure does make it pretty. Just to push that around. See that real thin color, just kind of push it around. It does look kind of neat. And there we go. Just add that medium color in there. Yeah, that's kind of pretty. That's kind of a pretty little vase there. Yeah, I think I'll leave that. You could join those lights up together, but I think that's kind of neat. Maybe a little bit more of a light right on that foot right there. Maybe let's go burnt sienna and the blue here. And we'll be a little bit careful there with that contact shadow. The front where that vase is coming through is called the contact shadow right there. So we'll be a little bit careful there with that. And let's blur, because I don't like it to be absolutely always perfect like that, I'll just blur off some of that shadow and that vase and that shadow in together there so that you lose that line. It's a softer. You can leave a little bit up here, which helps pull the eye forward, but just lose that line a bit. And let's just add a bit of this coming back here. See those pretty colors? That's very impressionistic. You let those pretty colors come back there. Let's thin it. I work thin when I'm back out here, out of my center of interest. I work more thin so that I don't have as much impact with my marks. So we'll come back here, put a little bit of light, a little bit cooler. Remember we said we're going to do more stuff. This is dirty paper towel. I love to do that. This is my dirty paper towel. And I'll just take a little water with that, smear this on like this. Then that just helps carry. You see, so I'm constantly, painting with a paper towel in my hand. You've seen me do it all the time, right? And if I don't always tell you guys this because these are some of the secrets that I don't share. No, I like to tell you guys everything, okay? But I carry this, and that's what gets my hands all dirty, too. And then when I get towards the end of a painting, I like to just rub that paper towel around in certain areas because that's carrying a lot of the colors of the composition. And it kind of ties it all together, if that makes sense, So it's kind of sometimes hard to go to a new paper towel. But, yeah, I like that. Let's put while we're right there, let's put a warmer, some yellow, some of my grays right here. Let's go up in value a bit and let's push that light strike right up here. That's hitting right in here where that vase is. Boom. So, and it's got to be warmer. See how that's cooler? That's a little bit too cool. It's got to be warmer. Let's get some burnt sienna and some yellow into that. That's better. And now I got to get its value back up again. So I'm painting all of this right now with this number 10. I started it out with the 1 inch and the 2 inch brush. And so I like that. And see, if I had that dirty paper towel, which I threw away, which I'll just go grab it again. That's what I like to do here. That dirty paper towel, see? And I like to just drag that right through there like that. See how it puts in some of that blue and some of those other colors in there? There's nothing like a dirty paper towel from your composition. And if you put a little extender in that paper towel, that'll stay wet for you for quite a long time, and you can use it for a long time. Just grab some of that stuff and just move some of these colors through here. There we go. It just makes it real pretty. See all the coloring that's going through this painting now. Let's take some of this cooler color back out over here. A little bit more back in here. Let's add, we're going to want to, Couchoir always kind of like puts a nice, some kind of flower unit back up over here to hide some of this stuff. But we'll just push that in. I need that dirty paper towel, but we'll just push that in a little bit right there. There we go. Gives us just a nice interest of that. And, along that edge, I can go just, if I wanted to, here, bring up that form shadow just a bit. But I like to blur the edges, especially in this type of painting. I like the blurred edges. So we'll take a little bit more of my gray here. That is off ellipse a bit. But see, I'm not going to make a perfect ellipse there, guys, on this edge. I want this to fade away a bit. Softer look. I want the viewer's eye up here by the, here's a little warm. I want the viewer's eye up here by the flowers. So I don't want to make a harsh edge down here. That will pull too much of the viewer's eye, if that makes sense. So we'll just soften that just a bit. And I start to slowly bring in that color, a little bit of that form shadow here until I see a definition there, but not a lot. And let's take that nice light, follow that down where that light strike would be here, right in there. Boom, take some of that out and across. There, right in there like that. That's really kind of pretty. Whew. Yeah, so we're an hour into it. So we got an hour left in this painting, so let's get going. So maybe a little bit more of the light, maybe a bit of that warmer yellow right in there. Okay, that just helps, you know, if you track that light down just a bit, that just helps them see that light passage down the vase there. Let's go in and soft reds right in here with these grays. Soft reds, more pinks, a lighter pink flower here. We'll just drop some of that right in there. I'll add, again, if I want something soft, I add extender. If I want to build something and keep it wet, I add the open medium. So I'm just going to keep this soft, add some of these pretty colors of the flowers back through here. Maybe a bit of the blues in there as well, which will give you beautiful grays. And, you know, you've got to worry about carrying some of those blues from the composition up further into the painting there, okay? It's what we do. And so let's look and let's push this light right up here. That's that light of that flower. And we're going to want to have another little flower or something, but we'll put a shit back behind some leaves and stuff. But that's going to bridge that area there. Let's build, I'm going to build more of an edge here because that's where I want the viewer's eye to come up here towards this edge of this painting right in there, okay? Now, let's build a nice warm pink so that we can build up in here a little different flower color like Ann Cotterell does there. Love that. So we'll build just idea. I'm thinking center right in here, so I'm just doing some little warm marks back here right in there like that. Now I want to push in that center, but a little different. So I'm going to have a little red in my red violets here. And we'll come maybe right down in here and just walk that out. Push it in and then walk it out, leaving a few marks that help you with the roundness of the flower there, see? And maybe a softer pink down in here. That'll be some of the reaching petals coming out here. Reaching petals come out from underneath the bowl and reach out and give the flower its length. Okay, let's take some extender, some of my green and that red, and push that into this part of the flower. Now what that's going to do is allow me to compress down this side of the flower and give that, see, it's already giving it that transparency. And what's happening? Your eye is lifting up here. Does that make sense? Your eye's going to my dirty fingers here. Your eye is lifting up there, right up in there. And that's where I want the view to go. Now, I'm going to rinse that out real quick. And when I rinse that out, I'm going to poke my brush into a little extender because I just put solvent into my brush and I don't want to come in here and pull holes. So let's take a little cooler red and push in a little bit right in here. That'll be a little different than Cotterell does. Okay, this is more like what a Couchoir would do. And push some of that coloring right in there, okay? Let's grab some light here, pull right into that a bit. Here we go. There, just like that. Maybe a little bit of warmth into that, a little bit of that yellowy warmth into there. Let's add a bit. See how that just changes the whole feeling of that part of the flower there, see? And we'll drop in a little more light here, right in like that. And maybe a few, marks here for other like little petals and stuff, but I'm not gonna paint anything very specific out here. I'm gonna let it be just soft here, just soft. So we'll add a bit of that yellow in there, right in there like that, okay? Maybe and I'm looking at the edges, so maybe I want to draw a bit more of a petal edge right out here and see how that petal edge draws your eye right up there, because it's the edging technique, and there's entire techniques I use with painted Sipley, and it's called the petal edging technique. God, I hope I didn't put paint on my ear. But it's called the petal edging technique. And if you go to the channel and in the search, and it says search its channel, okay, go to the main channel page, search its channel, you put in petal edging technique, you'll come up with videos that I show how to do this particular technique in depth, how you roll the brush over, load the brush, roll it over, and this gives you a better idea just how I create those edges like that. See, that's kind of pretty. That's pulling your eye right up through here. Let's take a bit of that pink. What kind of flower is this right up in here? We don't know, but all I'm going to do with it is use this. I'm just going to put some of the colors in here, and maybe some of the edges and stuff here that will suggest that this is a flower back here, but we don't know. So it's in there, but what is its exact shape? We don't know, and we don't need to. All we need is to have a bit of the coloring in there and the movement and stuff, and that's all we need. And let's take a little warmer kind of green, and we'll push some of that in there to push that color back. We have the cool greens, maybe a bit warmer yellow green into a few leaves right out here like that, here, just like that, see? And see, that's why I like that paint, and I drag it like that. See, I'm letting that, when I'm dragging it, I'm removing some of the excess paint and letting that background of that vase come through, which is giving a little more interest to that leaf, just real quick like that, see? And I love that kind of stuff. Let's get some blue greens, maybe a little lighter blue greens, because you can have lighter blue greens. Push a little lighter, cool color there, and let's get a little blue shadowy color in there. We can walk that in. You could do a little negative painting there. Maybe it warms up towards a yellow-green as it comes out of there. So you pick up some of that yellow-green color. Maybe just a touch of it right in there. Mix up some of your colors there. Let's take a touch of this this lighter blue-green. Ooh, a little lighter than that. Maybe not this light, we'll see. Oh no, that's kind of pretty. And so it goes from that blue-green into that yellow right there. Let's restate that lighter, warmer yellow-green. Right there. There we go. They're right on that leaf right there. That's kind of pretty. Could go because of the value of the roses. I look at the leaves to the value of the roses. I take the leaves up, not quite as light, but almost as light as the roses. And I call the leaves, when I do that, the bridges. They are the bridges. The leaves are the bridges between the roses. So, for example, like right in here, you see a trough right between the two. And so I can take the value of this up, just one or two strokes. As I bring that up, what it happens is it reduces the trough. Do you see that? That darkness between the two starts to go away a little bit. Now, I don't take it on the leaf as light, but I can just tap a little bit of that around, And all of a sudden that becomes a softer expression. It doesn't have that dark traveling down there between them. And it works. Let's take a little bit of that blue-green there. Let's warm that up. Maybe even a bit of our yellow. Add the Hansa Yellow and the white here. And just lighten some of this here. I kind of imagine the center vein line, and I pull the leaves towards that center vein line there. That could probably go a little yellow, a little more yellow, a little more light. Let's just put, because this is the light side right in here. There, like that. So, and then maybe a little pine green onto the other side. Still have some of that blue-green in there. So we'll paint just a bit of that, leave a bit of that. A little bit more of the blue-green, cooler, as the stems. You could also use a beautiful burnt sienna and stuff in there. Maybe I'll drop some of that cooler color back in here. Just kind of tap it and spin it around over here. Like that, that just loosens up. See how it just loosens up that area. But Anne has a lot of little detail. Of course, her painting is maybe a little bit bigger than mine. Or she works a lot of detail too. So, but I thought it was just a bit bigger. But I'll just push some of that color in there. I kind of almost like that. I might just take a bit of the green and push with a little water there, push that together so I create that back. And maybe a light pink here. Dirty, kind of dirty. Here. Has a little bud or something like that. What is it? A little bud or something. You'll see it as a little bud. Let's put one with some of my deeper reds and stuff. Back up over here maybe. A little more green. I got it a little too bright, so I'll gray it back down. Here. Here we go. Just a little grayed color. Let's go back up here and take some of that beautiful, a little extender. Let's just push some of these beautiful colors back in here. We're just going to paint petals and shapes, you know, for our composition here. Just petals and shapes. You know, maybe you can paint like the idea of a calyx or so right in here. That might, you know, and has that up there on that one. The idea of a calyx there. That's pretty, carries that green up a little higher. Maybe a bit more of that right up there. That's kind of pretty. Up there. And again, I'm going to go. Now, you can also, if you want to really, you know, take some time, grab some of your open medium now. Grab some of your whites, some of your grayed colors. And the open medium will be thicker, so you can do some drawing and stuff with it. And look at how that just paints. That is amazing stuff. Derivan just did their job with that. And we'll just kind of smush these together like this is a back turned rose up here. Right up there like that. And maybe a little bit more reddish tones up underneath here. Let's go a little bit cooler reddish tones back up in here. Push that around like that. Some of that can come in here. Yeah, it's just the open medium. Not only, I mean, it gives just it strokes out, but it gets a little bit more interest to your mark, you know, because it has just a slight bit of the transparency that it adds, you know, because it's thicker, and you add a touch of transparency to it, so you get some really interesting marks here. There we go. And maybe blur that edge So see, I just take off like that. See how it takes off that edge part of it right there? And let's put the greater highlight right down here in front. That'll pull them more towards the center of this composition here, okay? And gives me the ability, so I'm pulling it right around to there, but it gives me the ability to, you know, make a better path of light if I want to right here in my painting. So I'll put a little bit more white, thick white with a little open medium right in here. Right in like that. There we go. So I get that good path of light right there through the painting. Some of that really, really neat kind of pinky warm stuff right back down in here. That's just, it just adds, I mean, it's just marks of color, and this is what a impressionist would do, is just add those marks of color. I like that. We'll gray this up, grab some of this greens and burnt siennas and all these pretty compositional colors, and just add that back here. Maybe a bit more greens back here. You know, you're seeing the back edges of roses and stuff here. You know, I just need to kind of work in the swirl shapes of the roses and stuff. I don't need to paint them exactly, just because, you know, they're sitting way in the back. They're covered by leaves and stuff. You might want to give a petal or two, or like a shape of it, but you don't need to do that much here. Maybe shape the bowl a little bit there, but you don't need to do that much. There, like that. And here we go, just a little bit there. Leave some chunky stuff there. That's kind of pretty. Chunky, just doom, just put on some color here. Let's just push that back a little bit, some color, and grab some of that white, and this little, and just tap it on your palette, it becomes a little more pink, softer pink back here, and it just sets up another idea. You know, you don't have to have perfect little roses here. We can set up like a little rosebud there. You can even give like a touch of a reaching petal out here, so it looks like that is going in like that. Okay, push this up and around a bit. Soften those edges. A little green and blue. Push in the idea of a leaf. Maybe the idea of a petal coming out. Here. That's a little sharp, so I'm going to put a bit of a red into that. Take that back out there. But see, I'm not specifically painting up roses as much as I'm giving the idea of little shapes of buds and stuff like that. The big roses and everything up here in the front are done. Now I could, you know, let me just show you here. I could, if I decide, well, you know, I've got enough interest up here in the front, I could take a softer red right in here and spin it around and create another rose right in here in all of that movement. Does that make sense? So I'm actually kind of creating a rose here. Here. Around, and you got all of this beautiful movement, so you start to see a bit of a rose there. Specifically, not quite so many petals, and we can, you know, push that one up there like that. maybe give it a little bit. It's right in our path of light, so it's we can do a lot into it. Our path of light is right through here, there, and right through like that. See, that just gives that another little idea. I kind of like that. Let's take some of this and whisper some of that down through here. This is carrying the color back down through. Maybe a whisper of that through. Keeps that very impressionistic. Now, so I'm very, very much impressionistic. I'm just about 1 hour and 5 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes right there into the painting. It went pretty quick. I did paint this kind of fast. Sorry, I did go really fast. But this is how fast I tend to paint, guys. So I wanted to show you. And we're going to do a slower, more detailed little couchoir one here as well. I'll do that. There's an extra little petal in there. And I'll do that with you. And of course I have other ones as well. But there is a certain speed at which you paint that gives you a beauty, a casualness of beauty, a power to your painting. And the hardest thing in advice, I know a lot of you, some of you think I talk too much, some of you just love the advice. So those of you think I talk too much, put me on pause for a minute. And those of you who want to hear some advice, okay, is there's this beauty that comes with this power and this speed. And what happens is you start looking at mine and all this stuff, and you start to go into what we call a copy mode, an emulating copy mode. Now you look at this painting, it has elements of a vase, of a couchoir. It has elements of a cotterell over there, but it's not all exactly the same. I'm pulling inspiration from it and I'm painting my painting. And what I want you to do is, I'll put those particular photos to those that are subscribers to the channel. I'll put it on the community page. But you take a little inspiration from that, take a little inspiration of mine, and you paint. You paint with good shapes, forms, movements. If you want to draw some color in and create transparency, put a little bit of water on it and push. That's the beauty. Even though this is pretty much dry here, watch. I can do that same thing. I can push some of that water right in here, and I can push right like that, and I can bring that transparent element right there, right into the edge of that painting. Right there, see? And all of that I can do right now really easy because I'm still within 1 hour. What did I tell you? After you get past 2 to 3 hours, those paints start to harden up a little bit more, and it's harder for the water to do that. So you can come through, though, before that time, and you can start, doing some of this lovely stuff here and, putting and getting some of those looks, okay? And I really like the looseness of all that. I don't want to do too much. I'm really kind of liking the simplicity of this one, a little different. But I might want a little bit more light right back out through here. Let that, straighten up that line there just a bit. I like that. That's that good through light, warm in the painting here. Boom, pick up some of that. I love that bit of water hanging in there like that. Yeah, and so I'll just grab and dirty up some of these colors and add some of those throughout other parts of the painting. And it carries color. And that's what makes it pretty, is it carries color. I really like that burnt sienna. So I'm going to add some extender. I'm going to look at this. I loved that burnt sienna. Just a few marks of it. Some green, some burnt sienna, and some blue. Let's deepen this up here. And just take that down. That's where I really need my dirty paper towel. Sometimes I'll do an entire painting with one paper towel, so it's really dirty. And it's not really a paper towel anymore, but I just love what it adds to the painting. The casual nature of the painting. And but what you have to fight, okay, is the copy mode and slowing down so much that you're copying what it is that I'm doing. And that makes it stiff, okay? And so I like to paint with a certain degree of speed in what I do, and then I get all of this casual nature to the painting that I just really love here. And so you can come in, you know, now that I have that, if I wanted to clean up certain things, like let's just take a little bit of blue and burnt sienna here over to this side. Maybe clean this edge. Just it's going to pop this thing out, so I have to be careful. But, you know, just maybe add that other color. And then I can blur into that just a touch. But that little bit of edge, you know, and everybody's going to be different about how much they really want to see that edge. You know, everybody's likes and dislikes will be a little different. Maybe we can add just a bit of that over here. Here, blur that together there just a bit, right? How much do you bring out that edge? Cotterell brings it out a little bit more. Couchoir just kind of blurs it out. And even if he goes into, you know, distortion, he still leaves it. Let's put a touch of that light little shine there. Maybe a bit of it right up here. Boom. Pull down just a bit. Leave that. Kind of pretty. I don't think I'll touch anymore. I really like how that flower came out there. And see, it's just so casual, so impressionistic. It's a fun little painting. It's a fun little study for you. And again, I know I went really fast. Okay, watch it again. And we're going to do some more slower ones. And all of these particular techniques, how I do this, I'm going to be breaking down on our Paint It Simply channel, which is the next one over. So the links to the Paint It Simply channel and stuff we'll put in the video description as well. It's good, even no matter how advanced you are as an artist, it's good to go back and review some of those other techniques we use as a beginner and stuff to understand, like water can do those beautiful types of marks on this type of paint, okay? The acrylics, and this is the other thing, guys, and I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it another 1,000 times as we paint together. Not all acrylics are the same. We formulate them as chemists, like I was for many years. We formulate them to do different things. I formulated this paint to do this, so it stays soft for several hours, so you can manipulate it with its solvent of water. You can adjust it with extender, and you can use it with the open medium here to do even more things and stuff. But they go pretty fun little painting. Hope you enjoyed it, okay? And watch it again and try. Those of you that are painting along with me, just take a rose and do a speed painting rose or something like that. Toss out some of your background colors, throw a little bit of color in, push it around, and do a speed painting of it. And do it again and again and again. And you try to paint it as fast as you can with as few marks as you can. And I watched one fine art teacher that was amazing. I was just mesmerized by it. And he took a tube of paint, put it out on a table, and he gave himself 50 marks. That means 50 touches of his brush to paint that paint tube on this table. And every time he took a mark, he marked it down on a piece of paper. And so he gave himself 50. And what that does is it causes your mind to simplify it, to look for certain shapes, because you're going to do this thing quickly. You only have 50 marks, and you're not going to be able to blend it or anything like that. So your color working, your knowledge and stuff has to get closer on. And those types of exercises, I know we all want to jump in and paint pretty things, but those types of exercises, guys, are the things that help you more than anything else, because they put this mechanism or this way of seeing things into your brain, and you can paint stuff, okay? All right. Thanks very much for joining me, and don't forget to smash that like button there. Hit that little bell so that you'll get notified when I release another video. And I think our next thing that we had, because I quizzed you guys, what do you want to see? I think our next thing is a seascape. So I'll go paint that tomorrow, and we'll get that back up as soon as possible up onto the channel, okay? And then we'll go into more in-depth couchoir and stuff again, along with another wildlife painting, because you guys are enjoying them all. Thanks very much. I'll see you on the next one, maybe in 2 days. Bye-bye.